originally had planned not to show the actual steps of threading the tie rod, but I figured I'd include it in a separate video just in case anybody wants to see it. So here's the die I got. I got this off Amazon. It's made in China. It's probably not that great, but it does the job. It's a 5/8 18. 18 means that it's fine threads, and so you get your turning tool and put the die in. Now on mine there's two places where it's held in place on opposite sides, so the two opposite side set screws, put those in. The first thing I did was actually to, if you see on here, there's a screw in there, and that is tightened or loosened with the little set screw in there, and that will spread this slightly apart or bring it together. And that way I've kind of tightened it down to spread this apart a little bit, so that on the first go with this die I'll just take a little bit of material. I mean, it will be most of the material that's needed to be taken, but it won't be everything. And then after I go through it once, I'll back this off and bring this together, and it'll set it to the final thread width. So I got my tie bar loaded into the vice grip here, and I'll just knock this off right here. I'll cut it with my grinder, so I'll basically chop it right about there. I'll take it off, and that'll give me a flat surface to start with. Once I got the top chopped off, I'm going to just check to make sure that I made a pretty level cut. It's easier if you start with a nice flat surface. So that's pretty good. Next thing I'll do is I will level it. Now starting the die is the hardest part, so you want to make sure you got it level. So I've made my stock about as level as I can. You start with the wording or the lettering here facing down, and now I'm going to try to get this to be as level as possible. And if you check your stock, you can see which way it's leaning and know that you have to cut it in a particular manner. Okay, so I'm just going to lie this on here, and I'll check it for level and try to keep the bubble leveled in the appropriate manner depending on which way my stock is leaning. got it started. I'm gonna oil it a little. Just got this spray on oil. And then back it off. Every turn or so, go back a quarter. Alright, now I'm going to take it off just to show you the threads that have started. So you can see there that the threads have started, and it might be going a little bit crooked, but it's tough to tell right now. I'll need to go down about another ½ inch to be able to tell if it's going straight or not. Alright, I backed off the die just so I could check the threads are going straight. And you can see, you'd be able to see if they weren't going straight, you'd be able to see like it'd be angled in and it'd be taking a huge bite out of one side and not so much out of the other. So it looks like it's going pretty straight. Okay, once you get the die down to where you want to stop the threads, and I went about a ½ finger width from where the welds start. Then just back it out. Like I said, you're not going to need all these threads. You'll cut it to the actual final length you need, but once you get the die going straight, it's best to just keep going rather than stopping, cutting it off, and then starting again, because then you just gotta try to get it to go straight again, and that first little bit is the toughest part. Okay, now take your die out of the tool and back out this set screw so that the die diameter becomes smaller, and then you can put it back. Clean up some of this grease or oil. Now you can put it back in your tool. And you want to tighten these set screws down as much as you can, and that'll also squeeze it in a little bit more to make sure it's at its smallest. Width and the proper final width to cut the threads, and then just start it back down. It should be pretty easy to get threaded. And you'll see now that you've kind of tightened it down a little bit, it will shave off just a tiny bit more in the threading process. And that should get it to the proper final thread diameter and pitch, so you can thread on an actual nut or the rest of the rod end as needed. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and test that now. Okay, so I've got this 5/8 nut, and you can test it. It should go on smoothly, and it shouldn't, like, you should be able to spin it, and it should keep going for a little bit. Now see, as I get down to the threads that I haven't done the final diameter on, it gets tight. I mean, I could force it on there and it would go all the way, but it's best if I just rethread or thread those to the final diameter all the way down, obviously, and that way this nut will be able to spin all the way on and it'll be perfect. As you cut the threads down, you can chase it with your nut and just make sure that everything's being cut to the proper diameter, and that you don't need to retighten your die, because you might need to stop in the middle, back it all the way out and retighten your die. But this seems to be going on nice and easy. So it looks like everything's going smooth, and it will get hot, so be careful. Your stock will become hot cutting the threads. The final step is to cut it to final length. So I've got this one that's already done. That's about 6.5 inches total from the eye holes all the way out to the end of the thread, and so I'll just cut this off at the appropriate length. Now, don't cut it too short. It's going to depend on what you're using for the rest of your bar. So here's my setup. I've got this adjustable tube here that allows me to not have to take off the rod end or the tie bar end, and I can adjust it in and out while it's still on the vehicle. You might just have a female rod end. Picture this with a female 5/8 end on it, and just slide it down over, in which case you'll need to keep a lot more of this threading, and you actually won't need to thread so much down if you just have a female end there. But realize if you do that, you're going to need to adjust, take it off the car in order to adjust it. So that's the reason I'm going with this inner tube. It'll allow me to adjust the car, the length while it's on the vehicle, in and out like that, because there's female threads on this end and male ends to match up with the tie bar on this end. So twisting this will just move the rod end in and out in order to increase or decrease the length of the entire rod. That's it. Once you got it set to the appropriate length, then it's just a matter of putting it all together. That'll be a different video. So I just wanted to get this one out there just in case somebody's wanting to do this and get started on the project. Obviously you need to take your tie bars off, but other than that, it's a pretty simple process. This one actually went on the first go. The other one, the first one I did, I had to take 2 tries. I started going crooked first, and so I needed to straighten it, cut it off again, and then start over. And on the second try, I got to get it to go nice and straight. So it's all about practice. So you'll get better on the second one, and but there's lots of bar here to practice on. So hope that's a simple project for people out there, and hopefully it helps. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Thanks.